Greetings, everyone. This is Rock and Roll Spot Connection. Today we'll be talking about Mortal Kombat. And not just the new movie, but also the 1995 live-action film as well. But not the sequel to said film. Anyway, so... for those who may not be aware, last weekend... well, first off, last year a live-action Mortal Kombat movie was announced. It was, of course, pushed back due to COVID-19, and HBO, Warner Brothers decided that what they would do with much of their film slate, once they finally decided on release dates, was to have same-day releases on both in theaters as well as on the HBO Max streaming service. Now, the movies, new release movies will be available on HBO Max for 30 days. I think Godzilla vs. Kong is still available for a little while longer, for a little bit longer, I think. But yeah, they did this with Wonder Woman 1984, Godzilla vs. Kong, and Mortal Kombat, and it looks like that's going to be basically going forward. That's going to be how they'll handle these things. To be fair, I actually kind of like that because it means that for, at the very least, Warner Brothers movies, that's going to make it a little easier to review them. So anyway, but yeah, Mortal Kombat. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I remember when Mortal Kombat was first introduced and thinking it was the coolest thing. It's a gruesomely violent fighting game. That is awesome, and I suck at it. Yeah, I can do some of the special moves, but I've got like 2 or 3 that are programmed into my memory. The rest, I'm just like, oh, if I pull it off, cool. If I don't, oh well. You know, I'll try to. You know, you show me how to. You tell me which buttons to push in which order, and I'll try to learn and whatnot. But yeah, anyway. So, because the game series was so popular, and even back in the 90s, Hollywood was just like, "Oh, this is a popular thing. If we make a movie, we can make money off of its fans." Obviously, a Mortal Kombat movie was greenlit, you know, and was released in 1995, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson. It's well, depending on who you ask, it's either at least decently well regarded or an absolute travesty. It's a PG. It is, of course, PG-13, whereas if I remember correctly, Mortal Kombat was among the games that really kicked off the ESRB. So yeah. But anyway, so there was a movie. It ends very much in a set with a setup for a second movie. 2 years later, there was a sequel which was absolutely terrible. Doesn't matter who you ask, it was a terrible movie, flat out. There's also a few years later, there was also a TV series called Mortal Kombat Conquest, which was kind of a prequel series set after the first Mortal Kombat tournament, which was won by Kung Lao. Not the Kung Lao from the games, but rather the ancestor of Liu Kang and that Kung Lao. And obviously, the idea of doing more with Mortal Kombat would pop up every now and again, especially when the Resident Evil franchise or film franchise started up. You know, and video game movies were kind of becoming a thing again, even if they weren't good. Well, at least, not great, but, yeah. However, nothing would really happen with any of this for Mortal Kombat, until about 2011, when the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series was kicked off on Machinima. The first half of the web series is actually really grounded. It's actually quite interesting, really. He's grounding it so much because that was kind of the thing. And if, you know, in the early 2010s, grounding things in reality was kind of a big deal, you know. With the success of The Dark Knight, like, oh, hey, we can take these amazing, fantastical things and we can just, you know, make them, you know, realistic. And then the second season of Legacy kind of said, yeah, to hell with grounded. Raiden's the Thunder God with amnesia. Shang Tsung's a shape-shifting sorcerer. You know, all that fun stuff. And now, of course, we have the 2021 Mortal Kombat movie, which is rated R for violence, gore, language, so on and so forth. Most, you know, almost everything that you would, you know, rate a movie R for. No sexual nudity, but you know what? To be perfectly honest, it's not needed. So, you know. Anyway, so first so a few notes. One, this will, for all intents and purposes, be my review of the 2021 Mortal Kombat. This will also somewhat be a review of a retro review of the '95 Mortal Kombat movie. But the main thing is comparing the two movies. So, the '95 Mortal Kombat, by and large, it follows the plot of the first game with a little bit of, you know, in a more streamlined fashion, basically. But we have three focal characters: Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and Sonya Blaze, each of whom are being guided to a boat in Hong Kong, which will take them to a mysterious island for the Mortal Kombat tournament. Anyways, cast-wise, we got Robin Shu as Liu Kang, and honestly, he looks the part. He very much, you know, he does very, you know, you seem like, yeah, that's Liu Kang. To be honest, and I fault myself. I would largely say this because I wasn't paying attention, but I honestly thought Liu Kang was played by a different actor until I actually looked into it. And then we've got Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage is a martial arts actor who is beleaguered with, you know, who is constantly besieged by people claiming he's a fake. Bridget Wilson Sampras, before she married Pete Sampras, plays Sonya Blade, a special forces operative tracking down the all-around bad dude Kano, because, among other things, he killed her partner. Because, you know, special forces operatives totally have partners, like, you know, professionally speaking, not you know, romantically speaking. If it's romantic, if it's a romantic partner, it is more implied that it was a partner, like, you know, when, you know, the you know, oh yes, you know, the dead cop kind of thing. So yeah, but supposedly she's military, not law enforcement. So yeah. Anyway, we've got Christopher Lambert as Raiden. Yeah, Frenchman, best known for playing a Scotsman, playing an Asian Thunder God. And to be fair, one of the best, simultaneously best and worst casting, some of the best and worst casting there you possibly have. He is actually really good in the role, and it is also probably casting. It probably wouldn't fly today. Though, to be fair, also Christopher Lambert's nearly 30 years older today, and he wasn't young when he did Mortal Kombat. So yeah. Next up, we've got Trevor Goddard as Kano. Like I mentioned previously, Kano's just an all-around bad dude. It's like if there's a crime, chances are he's committed it at least once, maybe twice, just to make sure whether or not he enjoyed doing it or not. But he's a multiple murderer, drugs, gun running. Like I said, I bet that he has probably even once stolen 40 cakes. 40! Which is as many as 4 10s, and that is terrible. Anyway, but Kano, though a native of Earthrealm, is actually an ally of Shang Tsung and his forces. He just wants money and power. That's all. Then we've got in what is quite honestly the best casting of the first movie, Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa as Shang Tsung. He is, in all honesty, he is so good as Shang Tsung that I think at least the most recent video game installment, Mortal Kombat 11, brought him back to reprise the role. The video game version, not the movie version. He's got the presence. His voice is just right. The tone and temper, everything about him. He knows when to overact, when to be, and when to keep him, when to hold back. He is Shang Tsung. His casting in the role is on par with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Chris Evans as Captain America, Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. It was that good of casting. And it really did help. I would honestly say it really helps the movie. Not that everyone else is bad, because everyone else still really hits their marks pretty well. You know, there are no points where like, that doesn't really feel like so and so. At least when it comes to characters that, you know, are actually defined as characters within the film. Now we get a couple of characters that pop up from that were introduced in the second game in the first movie. Jax. Jax's appearance in the movie is actually rather short. It's only in the beginning in conjunction with Sonya. The character would return to Mortal Kombat Armageddon, but the less said about Armageddon, the better. Or Annihilation. Armageddon was one of the video games. Annihilation was the horrid movie sequel. Also, you had Talisa Soto as Katana. I should have wrote down who played Jax, but it did kind of slip my mind. Sorry. He was, if I remember, played by a different actor. I think he's actually been played. I think every live action appearance of the character has been by a different actor. Probably my two favorite portrayals of the character were in the new movie, and where he's played by McCad Brooks, and in Legacy where he's played by Michael J. White. But he's a part of Sonya's Special Forces unit, and also has a bone to pick with. At the very least, shares Sonya's determination to bring down Kano, though is not as close to the whole thing, so he can be more objective. Also, Talisa Soto as Katana, though Katana largely just kind of, in a lot of ways, Katana kind of just serves as being the hint book, passing along. She just kind of passes along information to Liu Kang, but it also does set up the concept that though she is the adopted daughter of the Emperor of Outworld, she is on the side of Earthrealm. Now, when I mentioned that no character feels truly wrong, at least when it comes to the fully realized characters, that's because there are two major characters that are just kind of there. They do stuff, but there's no arc for them. Scorpion, as played by Chris Casamassa, and Sub-Zero, as played by Francois Petit. They're basically just there because, well, they're honestly the two of the most popular characters in the damn game, so we kind of have to have them somehow. But yeah, there's nothing. There's a throwaway line about them being arch enemies, but being under the control of Shang Tsung. Christopher Lambert's Raiden actually does feel different from how Raiden comes off in the games. In the games, Raiden comes off as being much more dour, self-serious. I mean, he still understands humor, but Christopher Lambert's Raiden doesn't seem to take things too seriously. I mean, yeah, fate of the world, Earth, that's a big deal, but he also understands, you can't be all dour and cryptic about shit. Sometimes you gotta laugh, and sometimes you laugh at the wrong moments. I think that, and to be fair, that did help the movie. So yeah. Anyway. So like I said previously, the plot is very much a streamlined version of the plot of the first game. Handful of martial artists, bunch of martial artists fight in a tournament on a secluded island to decide the fate of the Earth. Ups and downs. First off, like I said, honestly, solid casting. Even with Christopher Lambert's Raiden, it's still honestly good casting. Yeah, that one wouldn't get. You probably couldn't pull that one off today. But otherwise, good stuff. The plot is fairly well adapted. Actually, making a point of adapting plot beats from the game. Like basically the whole idea that basically Liu Kang is the chosen one to win, is the chosen one. Goro for the time was fairly well realized. He does he does it kind of goofy today, but he's also well performed, to be perfectly honest. The scene with him and Kano eating together is actually really great, because just kind of showing the two characters playing off one another. But anyway, the movie doesn't take itself too seriously, and a lot of the references to things, even when there is no reason to make the reference, they're well done. Some examples here would include a reference to the friendship fatalities. At the end of Johnny Cage's fight with Scorpion, after he defeats Scorpion, and Scorpion explodes, a signed picture of Johnny Cage floats down saying, signed to my biggest fan, Johnny Cage. And then the picture burns in the fires. Much like the friendship fatality. There were also just little things, bits, things like on multiple occasions, Shang Tsung saying flawless victory. But the references to the game are actually well done. On the downside, the CG, namely for Reptile, really didn't age well. And there's some other CG that also... Reptile was exceptionally bad CG. The rest of the CG in the movie, for the time, it was okay. Looking at it now, it's... yeah, no. And I will be honest that another downside of the movie is the fact that it's PG-13. And so you don't have the gruesome fatalities. Kano's not ripping people's hearts out. Sub-Zero isn't, ripping people's heads and spinal columns out. So, yeah. But there's, of course, a reason behind that. Namely that, it's that whole concept of the teenagers have more disposable income. So if you market a movie towards teenagers, it's probably gonna make more money. Another thing is also that even though the game was rated M for mature, most of the people that played it in the 90s were teenagers. I was a teenager. In fact, when the first game came out, I wasn't even actually technically a teenager. I was like 12. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I had Mortal Kombat 2 on the Super Nintendo. So, when people talk about how bad how the fact that it's rated PG-13 makes it terrible, no, it doesn't. It's actually kind of smart. I mean, yeah, that's not to say you couldn't sneak into an R-rated movie, but, instead of making it so that most people who really wanted to see it would have to sneak in, so that they could actually get in normally. So they were actually able to say, yes, our movie made money. So, overall, I would, on my ratings, I would probably give the 95 movie I'm actually going to say 4 out of 5. And more than anything, I'm taking off for the CG. For the very rough CG in it. Which brings us to our the 2021 movie. So first off, we've got the cast. We've got the tournament's coming. The combatants must be gathered. That's the basic premise. I'll get a little more into it here after I go through the cast. We got Louis Tan as Cole Young, a character created specifically for this movie. Jessica McNamee as Sonya Blade, Josh Lawson as Kano, Joe Taslim as Bihan and Sub-Zero, as previously mentioned, McCad Brooks as Jax, Tadanobu Asano as Raiden. He actually looks the part. While the characterization of Raiden in the 95 movie was wildly off and actually but did help the movie, the characterization of Raiden here is kind of on point and works. And it actually does work quite well. Then we've got Hiroyuki Sanada as Scorpion, Chin Han as Shang Tsung, who really wants to deliver a performance as good as Hiroyuki Tagawa, and he's not do a bad job. Just he had some really big boots to fill. We got Ludi Lin as Liu Kang, Max Huang as Kung Lao, Sissy Stringer as Melina, Mel Jarnson, I'm guessing, as Natara, Nathan Jones as General Reiko, and then Daniel Nelson and Damon Harriman as Cabal, with Nelson providing the actual physical form and Harriman providing the voice. So the plot, like I mentioned, tournament's coming, combatants must be gathered. But before the tournament begins, Outworld, who much like before the first game and before the 95 movie, just has to win 10 in a row. Just has to win this tournament and they can take over Earthrealm. However, there's a prophecy. And because of this prophecy, the forces of Outworld are attempting to kill the Earthrealm combatants before the tournament begins. So basically hey, if we have no challengers, we win by default. And there's nothing saying we can't win that a win by default doesn't count as one of the 10 consecutive wins. But the prophecy is that a descendant of Scorpion, Cole, is supposed to break Outworld's streak. Cole Young is an MMA fighter. But he's not as big a deal as he used to be. He'll do a fight and throw it for a few $100. Just to, he'll be a ringer he'll pull a ringer. much to the distress of his wife and daughter. But yeah, he had all of the combatants have the dragon mark on them. But whereas Jax, Kano, Liu Kang, Kung Lao all got theirs recently, Cole was born with his. But yeah, eventually Sub-Zero comes after Cole. Jax saves him, sends him to Sonya. Him, Sonya, and Kano go to the Temple of Light, where they find Raiden, Kung Lao, and Liu Kang. With Raiden saying that, oh, and Sonya is not actually. Sonya doesn't get her official invite to the tournament until she kills Kano later on. Sonya kills Kano. But all of the combatants have to discover their power through their arcana, which it's kind of one, you don't have to explain everything. Yes, some things in fiction should be explained. The characters in Mortal Kombat being able to do crazy stuff, like shoot fireballs or whatnot, for the movie, maybe downplayed a little. I mean, the '95 movie really did kind of downplay the fireball thing with Liu Kang. But, like, the last 20 minutes of the movie is Raiden teleporting the Earthrealm combatants and the Outworld combatants to each to a separate location, which I actually really like that. That's actually really cool. It's a nice little nod to the whole, various stages type of thing. For the but yeah, they all have their one-on-one fights like that. And the problem, while I like the setup for it, I don't like the fact that it just feels tacked on like an afterthought. Like, oh, this is a Mortal Kombat movie. We should probably actually cover the tournament, shouldn't we? Huh. Okay. But yeah, they have to discover their powers, which, like I said, kind of bogs the movie down. The ups and downs. First and foremost, Scorpion and Sub-Zero are actual defined characters this time around. In fact, the movie begins with Bihan, Sub-Zero, killing Hanzo Hasashi, Scorpion. And yeah, it's really good. The fatalities that they adapted are well done. The visual effects are fairly solid. Natara is largely a CG character, but she looks good. Much better than Reptile did. When it comes to the downside of the movie, first and foremost, Cole Young. So yeah, I mentioned Cole Young is an MMA fighter. He's actually the character himself is actually well written, well performed. But it's a character created just for the movie and just to be the movie's chosen one, instead of the chosen one of the franchise, Liu Kang. In all honesty, they could have simply changed up Johnny Cage's backstory. No longer is he a martial arts actor, he's an MMA fighter. In fact, Johnny Cage, or maybe he's a former MMA fighter turned actor who still occasionally goes into the octagon, and he calls himself Johnny Cage because cage matches. It actually really works quite well if you think about it. But yeah. One thing I will say I was surprised with Cole Young. As I mentioned, he's a wife and daughter. And throughout the movie, I kept thinking, oh, they are. I have never seen two characters that were so dead right off the bat. They survive the entire movie. They actually make it through the whole thing. So, props. They could have even had a, oh yeah, you can only save one of them moment, and only save one of them. But no, they both make it a whole movie. But yeah, I could have done without him, and maybe just now downside of that would have been it would have been a little. There would have had to be a little bit more effort put into explaining how Scorpion is around and how Scorpion shows up. I mentioned previously also, the tournament itself feels like an afterthought. Like, oh crap, we've done all this other stuff, but we haven't done an actual tournament. Better get on that. That said, the final battle between Bihan Sub-Zero taking on both Scorpion and Cole at once, that's actually really good. You see some of the trailers show parts of it with the fight between Scorpion and Sub-Zero that includes Scorpion making a dagger out of some of or Sub-Zero making a dagger out of some of Scorpion's blood. Yeah, that's from that. It's a well choreographed fight scene. The whole thing about it is actually really well done. They set up a sequel, but Cole now the whole Cole, Jax, Lou, and Sonya have to go and find the rest of the combatants. But I don't like the fact that because of Cole Young, they decide Liu Kang goes from being one of the main characters in the franchise to being a supporting character at best. But yeah, overall opinion on both movies. 95 MK is definitely the best of the two. It's probably one of the best video game movies to date. I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best, but I'm not sure what I would qualify as being the best. But it's definitely one of the best. The 2021 movie isn't bad, and it's not bad. It is entertaining, but it does feel bogged down by a lot of the plot elements. Especially the fact that so much of it is about training for the tournament rather than actually being, instead of actually fighting in the tournament. Training should have just been a montage. I hate to say it. It's simple, but yeah. Training montages to show everyone's doing their thing. Neither one is a perfect Mortal Kombat movie, though. A perfect Mortal Kombat movie would take the plot and don't take it too seriously. Not taking too seriously essence of the 95 movie. Improve the CG, and add in all the necessary gore and whatnot, and an R rating. That would probably make for hell, not just improve CG, improve visual effects. Period. But yeah. So anyway, that's it for now. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying live long and rock hard.